In the first section of the total savings analysis, we first would pick our time frame. Our target time frame is going to be how all of the numbers below are selected. Everything's going to compound and adjust over your selected target time frame. So if I drop it from 15 years to 8 years, every single number is changed. One thing to consider is if I drop it down to 0, especially if I'm having a conversation with a client, this shows me everything at closing. So it's a nice clean way to start off and say at 0 years at closing, this is how things are going to look, and you can go through each column looking at it at a closing from a closing perspective. But then you look at the actual time frame for the client, whatever their time frame is for this particular transaction, and we can go out 10 years and see the impact. The first expandable area, and each of these areas are expandable or contractible. If you expand them, they'll show up here and they'll show up on the reports. If you contract them, they will not show up here and they will not show up on the reports. First question is your property appreciation rate. That can be 0, or you can go through and estimate what you think would be a fair growth rate over that period of time. That will then take the house value that was put in originally. So if I slide it back to 0, I can see the house value for current, and this is a purchase, so I can see they currently have a house worth $250 and they're buying a house worth $300. So one of the things we're doing is reflecting the fact that if properties do go up 1.5% in value, this will be going up at the rate of 1.5% on $250. This will be going up at the rate of 1.5% on $300 to accurately reflect the difference in appreciation. The mortgage liabilities in the first column, in this case the current column, this would show all of the first and second position mortgages and the balance at the end of 10 years. This would show all of the new liabilities and any existing liabilities at the end of 10 years. Now remember, we break this out. Mortgage liabilities are first and second position mortgages. Other liabilities, should you have auto, credit card, and other things that you're wanting to illustrate, would show up here. So if the client has those and they haven't paid off yet over your target time frame, those balances will still show up. For example, if I slide this back to 0, I can see quickly if there are any other liabilities as a part of this transaction. And I can see at closing, this client would still owe $31,000 in this situation and still owe $31,000 in this situation. So while the actual mortgage balances are going down, those other liabilities are also going down as well. What this allows you to do is provide a comprehensive comparative scenario. If you were consolidating debt, for example, this would be 0 at closing, but this might still be $21,818. So it allows you to show the financial impact, again, to the current liabilities for the mortgage and current other liabilities. The equity is the difference between the house value and those liabilities. So we're essentially saying this is what the house is worth. We're assuming that other liabilities, student loans, credit cards, even car loans, have no real intrinsic value. You might get a little bit of money for a car, but it doesn't matter because we're comparing apples to apples. So we're just going to take the house value, subtract the mortgage and other liabilities, and come up with a net equity. Because our philosophy is if you're going to have borrowing, it should be under the house in most situations because it's so much less expensive. But this gives you a neat way of showing the net equity in these two scenarios. So in this one, for example, I can see after 10 years, I have $39,606 in additional just equity compared to the baseline. The first column is always your baseline. It's going to show 0 because this is the equity if you do nothing. This is the equity if you do something, and I can see that compared side by side.